was shocked. He caught me with my skirt up and my boss behind me. But then he decided to this. Hello, Reddit. My name is Courtney, and I'm 28 years old. And I'm doomed. I'm still in so much shock, and I cannot even process it in my head. I am actually married and have been for 5 years now. But I'm so scared of my husband right now. I don't know what is going on in his head or why he's reacting this way. Well, the thing is, I cheated on my husband with my boss, and I was caught. I was shocked. He caught me with my skirt up and my boss behind me. But then he just decided to do this. I know, you'd probably think he'd yell and chase me out of the house, but he did none of those things. Instead, he has been quite silent. He speaks to me normally and has never mentioned what he saw that day. His silent reaction really scares me. If he was lashing out, it would have been better, and maybe that would have made the whole thing bearable. But he hasn't even spoken about the incident, and he still shows up at work. We actually work at the same company, but I am my husband's boss. I got promoted and became his boss just 6 months after our wedding. I had expected him to change and demand I quit, because that was what happened everywhere. But Ryan had been so encouraging. He even surprised me with a dinner date and told me he was proud of me, and didn't mind that I was now his boss. You see, Ryan and I met when we both came for the interview for the job at the company. It had been my wildest dream to work at that company. I won't mention the name of the company for privacy's sake. I chose my course of study specifically because I wanted to have the opportunity to work at one of the biggest companies, and when I got the job, it was my biggest dream come true. I actually chose to defy my parents in order to study what I wanted, and they weren't exactly pleased with that, so they refused to pay for my education. I had to work different part-time jobs and combine that with schoolwork. It was hectic, but I was determined to see it through. Because of the busy schedules I had to keep in order to study, I had no time for a boyfriend. Not that I didn't have one, but I was too busy for him, and he eventually broke up with me, saying that I clearly had other priorities that weren't him. I wasn't too pained by the breakup because I wasn't exactly invested in the relationship. So, when Ryan and I both applied for the interview, we were both picked for the next round of interviews. We quickly became friends and offered to share tips on how to best answer the questions we'd be asked. Eventually, when we both went for the interview, we both got the job. I remember we went to have drinks that evening to celebrate our new jobs. We started working together, and somehow we eased into a relationship easily. Ryan asked me if we could try a relationship, and I agreed. Even though I had always liked Ryan from the beginning, my feelings grew as we became closer. I was very excited when he asked me to date him. We were together for more than a year before Ryan proposed marriage. Ryan casually said over dinner that we should start planning our wedding, and I was surprised and said yes. It was the weirdest way of proposing, but knowing Ryan as well as I did, I knew he was a very shy person. I also saw him shaking his feet during dinner, a habit he had whenever he was nervous. I loved Ryan so much, and I was so happy that we were getting married. One thing I loved most about Ryan was that he was a very strategic planner, always calculating, so we barely had any losses or extra money to spend because of how well he planned everything. I had always been a spontaneous person, so having Ryan kept me in check. I guess it's true what they say about opposites attracting, and that I could make a decision right on the spur of the moment, and most times, it definitely got me into trouble, but definitely not at work. I was good at my job, and my spontaneity always somehow helped me get the job done. We started planning our wedding and sent out our invites to our colleagues at work, and within 2 months, we were married. I never considered myself a career woman because I just loved my job, and getting it done was my topmost priority while I was at it. I was never one to chase after a promotion or suck up to the bosses so they could consider me for one, but I began to get really desperate and wish I'd gotten a promotion when Mira came into the picture. Mira came in as an intern around the time I was planning my wedding, so I wasn't focusing on her. But after my wedding, when everything calmed down, I found out that she had suddenly become everyone's favorite, even the boss's. Within 3 months of working as an intern, she had gotten a permanent position. In fact, she was literally the eye candy of the office. She was beautiful and she knew it. She used her beauty to manipulate people into doing her bidding. All the female workers were clearly intimidated by her, and I wasn't left out. I felt the most intimidated and overshadowed by her, and I began to desperately try every means possible to get a promotion. I started to work harder than I ever had before. I went the extra mile to get things done and made sure to take all of the praises, instead of sharing credit with the team as I had done before. I began spending time with the bosses after work, trying hard to please them so I could get a promotion as fast as possible. Funny enough, as a newlywed couple, you'd expect me to be trying to focus on my marriage, but I just ignored Ryan and focused on getting this promotion. When Ryan tried to talk me out of it and advised me to wait patiently, not to desperately do things I'd probably regret, I got really angry at him. I refused to speak to him for an entire day, even though we lived together. I believed that he wasn't as ambitious as I was, and that he wanted to dampen my spirit, thinking he didn't want me to get promoted because he wasn't getting a chance at promotion himself. Ryan apologized the next day with a bouquet of flowers and a note that said he loved me and hated when we argued. I, of course, forgave him because it was a sweet gesture. He never mentioned anything about my desperate attempts to get a promotion after that argument. I finally got promoted, and I was overly joyous that I had finally achieved what I wanted, but at the same time, I was anxious. Everyone knew that Ryan and I were married since they had come to our wedding, and the news of my promotion spread around the office. I knew Ryan had probably heard about the promotion before I even had the chance to tell him, and I started to get worried about how he'd react. What bothered me even more was the fact that our colleagues were whispering. I had overheard two ladies talking in the restroom about how the wife got promoted while the husband hadn't, and how much they pitied Ryan because I would definitely be earning more than he did, which meant I would become proud. The excitement I felt when I first heard the news of my promotion vanished in an instant, and I became very worried. When we got home, Ryan asked me to wear a pretty dress, and he took me to dinner. It was really romantic, and during dinner, he expressed how happy he was that I had kept persisting until I got what I wanted, and he said he was proud of my achievements. At that moment, when I thought back to the many things I had done to get that promotion, my smile faltered, but I quickly continued smiling so Ryan wouldn't suspect anything, and I guess he didn't. We continued with our lives as husband and wife, and also as colleagues at work. I was happy that Mira was no longer the shiny new toy in the office, and that I had gotten the promotion I so desperately wanted. That fact alone was satisfying. Despite what you're probably thinking, my affair with my boss didn't start when I got my promotion. I didn't actually sleep my way to the promotion. I did bribe and run some errands for them, but my promotion wasn't the result of sleeping around. I loved Ryan and would never have cheated on him for something so trivial, even though it was something I desperately wanted. But I guess being sexually attracted to a person who is a walking potential hazard can definitely cause you to do that one thing you pledged never to do. I had seen firsthand how cheating on one's partner could ruin everything a person had worked for their whole life. It happened with my Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam had been married to his high school girlfriend, and they were happily married until she cheated on him. My uncle never recovered from that. So you'd think, with that glaring situation in mind, I would avoid putting myself in the direct line of fire. But no. It was like everything that happened with Uncle Sam flew out of my mind, and I forgot everything because I wanted to fulfill my desires. I was sent to another branch of our company to check how they operated and why they were making more sales than we were. Because the other branch was in another state, I had to travel there, and I was supposed to spend a week learning the ropes. Ryan was sad to see me go, but I had no choice. It was a work order, and I couldn't refuse. When I got there via a road trip, I was so exhausted that I couldn't even check out the work site. I just checked into the bed and breakfast inn I had booked for the week. Though the company had paid for my travel expenses to fly, I decided to take a road trip instead because of my fear of heights. They also gave me money to book a hotel room, but I decided to book an inn because it was cheaper and friendlier. That also meant I got to keep the extra money. It was a win-win situation for me, even though the road trip wasn't exactly what I had hoped it would be. It felt like every bump in every road was transferred to that side of the country, and we just kept going up and down throughout the journey. It was pretty exhausting. I arrived at the inn and rested for the day before heading out the next day. As I was trying to enter the building, a man bumped into me, spilling his hot coffee on my clothes. Luckily, I wasn't wearing anything thin, or I would have been burned. He apologized profusely and offered to pay for my dry cleaning. I was frustrated because I was supposed to meet the boss, and I definitely couldn't go with damp clothes. I refused his offer to pay for the dry cleaning and rushed back to the room I rented to change. I was already late, but I had no choice. When I got back and asked to see the boss in charge, I was directed to his office. On getting there, it turned out to be the same person who spilled his hot coffee on me, and he too was surprised to see me. I apologized for being late, and he waved it off since he was the reason for my delay. We started to discuss business, and he offered to take me on a tour to show me how everything worked. I was supposed to work as an assistant manager for the week, but he insisted I work as his personal assistant instead. The offer felt weird, but I knew that working directly with him and learning the business would help me a great deal, so I agreed. The next day, I followed him around. Oh, by the way, his name is Alex. So I followed Alex around throughout the day and learned a lot, even drafting new ideas for our own branch. At the end of the day, Alex offered to buy me dinner, and I politely refused, but he insisted, saying he wanted to make it up to me for soiling my clothes, and because he noticed I skipped lunch while following him around. I accepted the offer and we went out for dinner. It was really nice, and Alex made me laugh a lot. By the end of the evening, he offered to drive me to my rented room, and I accepted. When we arrived, he was clearly not pleased by the state of the place I stayed, but he said nothing. That day, I forgot to call Ryan to tell him how my day went. When I woke up the next morning, I saw his calls and worried texts, and I planned to call him later that day. Well, that day, I was informed that I was to move into a hotel room that had been paid for the rest of the week. When I asked who paid for it, it turned out to be Alex. I wasn't comfortable with the gesture because for the longest time, I had been used to sorting things out myself. I considered unnecessary spending a bad habit, especially since Ryan had influenced me in that regard. When I got to work and went to Alex's office, I asked why he made the upgrade. He said he just wanted me to be comfortable and that the place I rented might not have been suitable for that. I had no choice but to accept because I didn't want to get into the habit of refusing gifts, especially from my boss, and risk getting him angry in the process. That evening, after getting back from work, I packed up my things and went to the hotel room. While I was trying to settle in, I heard a knock. Thinking it was room service, I opened the door, and it turned out to be Alex. He said he just wanted to check up on me and see how I was settling in. I gave him the appropriate answers, and then he asked if I was going to invite him in for a glass of champagne. I made excuses, saying I didn't have any, and lied that I usually get too drunk on champagne, which would definitely affect my work the next day. He reluctantly bade me goodnight and left. I started feeling uncomfortable with his sudden acts and showing up, but it continued for the rest of the week. I was glad I had to leave by the end of the week, but I was suddenly called a day before I was meant to leave and told to extend my stay for another week. I knew it was definitely Alex's doing, and I was so upset and shaken that I went to his place that evening to vent my anger. When he saw me at his place, which he had taken me to earlier that week when he needed to pick up an important document, he was surprised and then happy, inviting me in. I don't know how, but suddenly all the anger left and I just stood there gaping at him like a fish with a fried brain. He must have thought I came there because I had some kind of feelings for him, because he drew me closer and started kissing me. At that point, as stupid as this might sound, I didn't resist and just gave in. I don't know why I did that, and I really regret it now, but I don't even know what happened exactly. The whole night was a blur, and I woke up in his bed, completely naked. He hadn't woken up yet, so I just picked up my clothes and ran. I felt so guilty. I had just cheated on my husband with my boss. What made me feel even guiltier was that my phone rang, and Ryan's picture, which I used as my call background, popped up. Ryan was calling, and I felt so guilty that I couldn't bring myself to pick up the call. Luckily, that day was a Sunday, so I didn't have to work, and I just stayed in my room. Alex also called me and sent several texts, but I didn't reply to any of them. I just sat in my room thinking about the weight of my actions. The crazy thing was, I kept thinking about the sex we had and how sinfully amazing it felt. I was stuck between two feelings, my guilt and my lust. Later that evening, someone knocked, and suspecting it was probably Alex, I didn't open the door and just ignored it. The knocking stopped, and I thought he had given up and gone away, but 2 minutes later, I heard the key turning in the door. I was shocked when I saw Alex standing inside my room, holding the master key to my door. He asked me why I had ignored him all day after we had sex the previous day, and I didn't say anything. He walked toward me, probably intending to hold me, but I flew into his arms and kissed him. We had sex again that night, and every night until I had to leave to go back to my husband and work. I know. I honestly don't know why I kept having sex with him despite not even loving him or anything. It was just really about the sex. Throughout the extra week I spent there, I never returned any of Ryan's calls. I felt unworthy to even call him or answer his calls. His calls reminded me that I was behaving wantonly, and I guess at that point I wasn't thinking about anything else but my sexual satisfaction. Besides the sex, I never allowed Alex to do anything else for me. I refused all his attempts to take me out or buy me gifts. I was only with him for the sex, and in my head I somehow concluded that it would only be a week-long affair. I thought we had our individual lives to live. I'd go back to Ryan and be his wife again, and Alex would go back to work and probably get another woman to satisfy his sexual urges. But well, it didn't happen that way. I had never told Alex that I was married. Maybe that's why he felt we were two free adults who could do whatever we wanted. I let him assume that I wasn't married. I knew he thought I was only in a relationship and not married, and I just went along with it. In my head, I thought our relationship had ended along with my work there, but I never knew I had something else coming for me. After I got back, I apologized to Ryan for never returning his calls and lied, saying work had been very hectic there, and most times when he called, I was either working or resting from the job. Ryan believed me and never mentioned it again. I resumed work the following week, and we were suddenly informed of a change in administration. I was being promoted to assist the incoming administration and keep them updated. I was happy about the promotion, but also surprised by the sudden change in administration. However, because I wasn't the owner of the business, I kept quiet about it. The new administration was supposed to arrive the next day, so we had time to organize the office and put together a summary of our new project in the making. When Ryan and I got home, he cooked us dinner and took out the champagne he had brought home from work. We celebrated my new promotion. Ryan was so proud of me, and I felt very happy about it. Being promoted twice while your husband is still in the same position as when you both got the job could definitely make him jealous or cause him to react differently. But Ryan wasn't like that. He was saving up to start his own company, so he was really content. And that was one thing I loved about him. The next day, my excitement about starting my new job and welcoming our new boss turned into panic and shock when I saw exactly who the new boss was. It was Alex. He was the new boss. I managed to smile and give him the flowers we had prepared for his arrival. I also showed him to his office without revealing the riot going on in my head. When we were finally alone, Alex reached for me and started kissing me, muttering about how much he missed me and how he couldn't do without me. Instead of pushing him away and trying to explain the situation, I let him kiss me. We would have probably had sex that day on his desk if it wasn't for the gentle tap on the door that stopped us. It was one of the staff bringing in some stacks of documents. When I regained my senses, I put some space between us and asked what he was doing. He said he just wanted to see me and was doing exactly that. I panicked and knew I had to tell him the truth before he found out about my marriage to Ryan himself. I asked him if he knew I was in a committed relationship, and he shrugged. I then told him that the committed relationship was actually a marriage and that my husband worked in the same company. Alex's mood shifted instantly, and I excused myself to give him space to think. I thought it was better that way. Even though I felt uneasy, I thought it was better he knew, and that he might choose to leave and never see me again. But then again, I was panicking. What if he got angry that I had deceived him and decided to tell my husband? But Alex didn't do any of that. In fact, the next day, when he called me into his office to brief him on a document, I was surprised. I thought maybe he'd never want to see me again, or perhaps he would have taken his leave. When I got to his office, he locked the door, dragged me to him, and kissed me, Surprised, I went along with it. We ended up having sex that day in his office, and afterward, Alex asked me to leave. I was so surprised because we had just had sex, and instead of saying he forgave me or something like that, he told me to leave. This pattern continued for another week, the same process. He'd call me, we'd have sex, and then he'd throw me out afterward. I thought maybe this was his way of venting his anger, and I kept quiet about it until I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted him and told him I didn't want to have sex with him anymore, because people were beginning to suspect, and because he was treating me like a sex toy. Alex laughed wickedly and told me he would have sex with me anytime he wanted, and that I wouldn't dare refuse him because he would put me out of my job, make sure I wasn't employed anywhere else, and ruin my marriage. I knew I was trapped. I had implicated myself. I couldn't afford to lose my job, and most importantly, I couldn't afford to lose Ryan. I loved him too much to lose him. So I continued sleeping with Alex, risking everything to save everything. The crazy thing was that Alex always demanded sex in the office, nowhere else. It was like he knew that I was panicking even during the sex because anyone could catch us at any moment. A month after Alex's arrival, orders came from the headquarters to promote all those due for promotion. And yes, Ryan was one of them. I was so happy for him and at the same time really scared. Ryan's promotion meant he'd be on the same floor as me and would see me going into the boss's office. Even though that was part of my job description, he might begin to suspect something. I tried begging Alex to reduce the frequency of our sexual encounters, but he wouldn't listen. He clearly wanted me for my body and wanted to use that to punish me for deceiving him. The first week of Ryan's promotion was terrifying because I was always on edge. The only time I felt relaxed was when we had closed for the day and gone home. Ryan noticed and asked why I was so tense at work, and why the boss seemed to call me alone all the time. I made silly excuses, saying he was just a demanding boss. Ryan, of course, accepted my excuses and told me that if the boss was bothering me, I could quit and try to get another job or maybe pursue a hobby. Somehow, his concern agitated me, and I got really angry. In my twisted head, it felt like he was asking me to quit so I could become a housewife. I didn't speak to him that evening and just went to bed without making dinner for either of us. Ryan didn't say anything, and the next morning, I only made a cup of coffee, when I usually made 2 for both of us, and then made 1 toast instead of 2. I also went to work separately instead of riding with Ryan in his car. My anger extended throughout the day, and I still didn't speak to him when he got home, even though he tried explaining himself and apologizing. Well, the next day at work, I saw Maria, a coworker, who had received a bouquet of flowers and a sorry note. She happily called her long-term boyfriend and was giggling over the phone. I felt bad for treating Ryan badly when he was only saying those things out of genuine concern for me. I decided that when I got home, I would apologize to him and settle everything. That had been my thought when I was called up again to the boss's office. Maybe Ryan had noticed how tense I became when I went up. I wouldn't know now. When I got to Alex's office, he asked me to strip waist down and bend over his desk. I obeyed. I pulled up my skirt, removed my underwear, and bent over his desk as Alex came behind me. He had just started pounding me from behind when the door opened, and I turned to see Ryan looking at me, then at Alex. I was so shocked. I pulled down my skirt, forgetting my underwear, and ran after him, but Ryan ignored me and went back to his desk. By now, everyone had seen me running after Ryan and was wondering what had happened, so I had to hastily return to my seat and force my panicking self to calm down. By the end of the day, Ryan waited to take me home, and I was so surprised. All through the ride home, he was weirdly calm. The only thing he did was tap the steering wheel as he drove. I was panicking so hard inside, and when we got home, he asked me if I wanted to eat pasta for dinner. Thinking about all sorts of things, I said no. It's been 4 days now, and I'm losing my mind. Ryan hasn't said anything about my affair with Alex, and he hasn't touched me either. I'm so scared out of my wits. I really don't know what to do now. Why is Ryan behaving like this? Why is he not lashing out or getting angry at me? His silence is slowly making me lose my mind. I'm scared even to bring up the matter because I don't know how to say it or how to begin apologizing. I still love Ryan so much, and I'm really scared I'm losing him, even though he's not saying anything. What do I do, guys? Please, I need your advice desperately. Update. Hello, Reddit. I'm finally doomed. Everyone and everything is against me. Ryan, you guys, and the whole world probably. I can't even breathe properly, afraid of the criticism I might get. It's so hard to live now. You know, I came here asking for advice on what to do regarding my marriage, and I got the worst responses possible. You guys definitely made me realize how much hate there is for cheating women, and I definitely hate myself so much right now. Well, my husband finally reacted, but in a rather explosive way, I think. I was so stupid for not getting on my knees and apologizing that same day we got home. I just waited to see his reaction, and I didn't get one. Well, until now. Ryan kept going to work for a whole month, but only to ruin things. First, he tendered my resignation letter on my behalf without my knowing. Then, apparently, he had recorded Alex and me having sex, and I didn't even know. He sent it to the headquarters, and now Alex has been rendered jobless. Ryan, for releasing information about staff misconduct, was promoted and given Alex's former seat. That's not all he did, though. He also discreetly released the video of me online, so no one could trace it to him. Then, he finally decided to get a divorce, leaving me with nothing but the clothes I had. I got nothing in the settlement. The money I managed to save was what I used to get myself a cheap apartment. And now I can't even go out without being pointed at. I hear things like, poor husband of hers, or cheap girl, or she did it to get her position in the company. It's so hard even to live these days because somehow I don't even care what those people think about me. I deserve it. That I know. I'm only so pained that Ryan thinks of me that way too. I feel so heartbroken and disgusted with myself for cheating on Ryan like that. I know now that I never deserved his unconditional love and support. I lost him, I lost Ryan. I lost him because I was stupid and dumb. Now that I think back, I can't even pinpoint an exact reason why I did what I did. Everything seems so worthless to me now, even myself. I feel so worthless, even to myself. I used to have Ryan supporting me silently in the background and helping me, but now I have no one at my worst. And knowing it's all my fault just makes it all the more painful. Crying myself to sleep seems like a normal process now. My head is like a broken recorder replaying that awful day Ryan caught me with Alex over and over again. I feel so stupid for hurting Ryan, and I wish so desperately that I could take back the hurt I caused him. I wish I had never met Alex or even slept with him. I should have been faithful to my marriage and faithful to Ryan. I know for the rest of my days I will forever pay for my sins. What I'd give right now to be in Ryan's arms again, in the comfort of our matrimonial bed, snuggled up by him. Different women and men have viable reasons for cheating on their spouses. Some I've heard do it because they're not loved. Some need attention, some do it for money, and for many other reasons. The craziest thing is, I did it for nothing. I didn't lack money, attention, love, or support from my marriage. I had all of those things, yet I was so stupid to think that I could cheat on Ryan and maybe get away with it. It's so painful. It really is painful. The emptiness in my heart feels so painful. I feel empty, and yet this emptiness feels so painful. I don't know how, but it does. I really wish that everything happening right now is just a bad nightmare, and that Ryan would just shake me awake, hold me in his arms and soothe me, telling me it was just a bad dream. But it isn't, is it? It's real. It's my reality now. All of this is update. Hello, Reddit. This is probably going to be my last post here, and I know that a lot of you hate me, and I deserve the hate, so it's fine, actually. But thank you for at least reading my story. I hope maybe someone, somewhere, who is about to commit the same stupid mistakes I made will see this and retract their steps before it's too late, as it is for me. Thanks and goodbye.